Few rides still scare me nowadays. Few still scare me after I've ridden them once. But Nothin But Net is a completely different story. Nothin But Net is the scariest ride I have ever experienced. More than that, it is the scariest experience I've ever had. And that's coming from someone who did the sky jump in Las Vegas and skydived out of a plane from 15,000 feet or 4,570 meters in the air. Nothin But Net is a SCAD tower located at Zero Gravity Thrill Park in Dallas, Texas, just a 20-minute drive from Six Flags Over Texas. S.C.A.D stands for Suspended Air Catch Device. If you're unfamiliar with the concept, it's simple. You are lifted up in the air on a platform, hooked into a crane, and then dropped freely into a net, with no cables, no bungees, no nothing. The concept is absolutely terrifying. The particular model at zero gravity stands 16 stories tall, which is a hair taller than the New Texas Giant roller coaster down the road. From what I can tell, there are only two SCAD towers remaining. One is the Sky Tower at Tivoli Friheden Park in Denmark, and the other is Nothin But Net at zero gravity in Texas. Montic still manufactures the amusement ride, but none have been sold in over a decade. That was one of the reasons I was so eager to try Nothin But Net. I strongly doubt more will be made at this point, and I have concerns the existing ones could be removed. There used to be more out there, but the model started to die shortly after it was unveiled, so why didn't the concept take off? I believe it's due to a series of accidents. Unlike many amusement rides that have countless redundant safety features built in, SCAD towers are operated manually. The operator alone is responsible for unclipping you, initiating your multi-story freefall, so it's up to the operator to verify it's safe to drop the rider. The lone braking mechanism is the net. One of the big fears of the ride is that the rider will miss the net. This is one of the reasons Nothin But Net specifically cannot operate in high winds. However, as far as I can tell, no rider has ever missed hitting the net. The issue has been the net not being raised. As I previously mentioned, the ride operator must verify the net is in place. The net is supposed to raise with the platform with which you ride up into the air. But on accidents that occurred at the IAAPA trade show in 2001, the Orange County Fair in 2003, and Extreme World in Wisconsin Dells in 2010, the net was not completely raised. In two cases, the net wasn't raised high enough, causing the rider's fall to be broken by the ground. In one case, the net wasn't raised at all. Fortunately, the version at zero gravity was operated with a perfect record. In fact, all of the rides at zero gravity have operated with perfect safety records. That was one of the reasons I decided to bite the bullet and give this attraction a try. And it required quite the financial commitment too. Typically, it costs $35 per ride on Nothin But Net. However, there are a select few days per year where zero gravity offers unlimited rides, or 5 rides for $50. So if you have the flexibility to visit any day, I would recommend watching for one of those special days. Otherwise, you'll have to bite the bullet and pay the $35 cost. But it is an experience you will not soon forget. If you want to have the experience documented, the park does offer a video of the experience for an additional $25. Not surprisingly, riding Nothin But Net will require you to sign a waiver. It consists of exactly what you expect. It's verifying that you're healthy with no prior neck or back injuries, not under the influence, and that you will not sue the park in the event you get hurt due to rider error. You also need to weigh between 110 and 240 pounds just to ride, just as an FYI. Once you've signed your life away and charged your credit card, you'll get suited up for the experience. First, you put on a helmet. I think it's pretty self-explanatory why you wear this, but it's a means of protection in the event your head hits the net. Not on the first impact, but as a secondary impact. But on my 3 rides, my head came nowhere close to hitting the net if I remember correctly. Second, you are fitted into a harness. While you are dropped without any cables or bungees, you are placed into a special, bottom-heavy harness. This ensures that you always land on your back, harness first. Then, you are given very specific instructions how to ride. 1, you are told to drop in the seated position, which the hook at the top places you into. 2, you must hold onto the harness at all times. This is easy enough since you hook your hands through loops in the harness, plus, do you really want to let go? I found myself clenching on tight for the entire drop. 3. You should have your head tucked downwards. This is to prevent whiplash. This one is also easy enough to maintain. 4. You have to keep your legs tucked against the harness. This one was very difficult for me and caused me some issues that I'll get into later in this review. My biggest issue with Nothin But Net is that there is nothing restraining your legs. I wish the harness had some way to fix them in place so I didn't have to worry about their position. Because take it from me, it's exceedingly difficult to control your legs when you're dropping 10 plus stories into a net, but again, more on that in a little bit. Once suited up, you board the platform and are lifted 160 feet or 49 meters into the air. It's at this point you will question your life choices. I sure did. I'd be lying if I said my legs weren't wobbling like jelly. And that wasn't the case just on my first ride. It was like that on each of my rides. One of the other reasons Nothin But Net is so freaky is that it also happens to be the tallest ride in the park. You're standing eye to eye with the top of a 16-story skyscraper and looking down on a sky coaster. Once at the top, you are attached to a hook and slowly lowered out over the net. Thankfully, Zero Gravity had not one, but 2 operators verifying the net was in position. You had the operator at the top who was responsible for releasing you, plus a spotter at the bottom. That was reassuring. And the anticipation for the drop is downright terrifying. You have no clue when you're going to drop, there's no countdown, and since you need to stare at your chest, you cannot see the operator unclipping your harness from above. You're at the operator's mercy, and in my case, he teased me with fake countdowns and puns before he'd drop me. Then the drop happens, and holy moly was that a rush. I know the drop doesn't last longer than 3 seconds, but it feels like an eternity. I kept wondering when I'd hit the net. But that drop was the best pure freefall I've ever experienced. Probably because it was a true freefall with no cables or bungees, but I think it was also from the sheer terror. Only the best drop towers still cause my stomach to drop to this day. But those drop towers had nothing on Nothin But Net. This drop was intense. Not even the initial plunge in skydiving was as crazy as this. For skydiving, you have the visual of staring at the ground, but the actual sensation of freefalling isn't like that of an amusement ride. Nothin But Net felt like a drop tower, on steroids. While the ride is 160 feet tall, you don't drop the full length because the net is elevated above the ground. That's how you have enough room to be caught. Per Zero Gravity, you drop 130 feet or 40 meters. Then came the impact. Zero Gravity claims the landing is quote-unquote so smooth that you'll hardly even notice it. I wouldn't go that far. I definitely felt the landing. The shock of hitting a net at such high speeds is not insignificant. The harness does protect your back well, and that does feel cushioned, but my legs took a beating. On my first ride, after my harness hit the net, my legs slammed into the net, launching my shoes a good 10 to 15 feet skywards. So a tip to anyone who's riding, make sure your shoes are extremely tight. I was so in shock at what just happened that I sat there in the net for a good 15 to 20 seconds after landing, trying to get my bearings. On my second ride, I landed perfectly. I think I did the best job on this particular drop at tucking my legs against the harness and not moving them. But my third ride ended in an uncomfortable manner. I vaguely remember my legs kicking in the air during the drop, which again was completely my fault. I tried holding them against the harness, but it was just instinctive to move them. So I landed somewhat awkwardly and hurt my knee. It felt like my knee had been drilled by a baseball. My knee was sore for the next few weeks, but thankfully it wasn't anything major. So what would I rate Nothin But Net? I would give this ride a 9 out of 10. In terms of pure thrills, this is the most intense ride I have ever experienced. There is nothing out there that matches the drop on this SCAD tower. You are literally free falling with nothing holding you onto you. I just can't give it a perfect score because I was so terrified of the landing and injured myself in the last drop. If these SCAD towers had a harness that restrained my legs, removing the chance for rider error, I would have easily given it a perfect score. Now, would I do it again? I'd like to say yes, but the way I landed on my last ride is floating in the back of my head. but I certainly am glad I gave the attraction a try. Do I recommend Nothin But Net or any of the SCAD towers? If you love pure adrenaline rushes, absolutely. Just know that you need to have good body control during the drop, and I'm not sure if that's something you'll know until you ride Nothin But Net, because how often you drop freely from 10 plus stories into a net. So those are my thoughts on Nothin But Net, the last remaining SCAD tower in the United States. Have you been on one of these SCAD towers? What are your thoughts on the ride? I would love to hear what you think down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you gave it a like and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.